and welcome to this latest Q&A in Screen International's For Your Consideration screening series. I am Screen contributing editor Nikki Bourne, and I am absolutely delighted to be speaking with Abner Benaim, director of Plaza Catedral, Panama's entry for Best International Film at the 2020 Oscars, alongside the film star Ilse Salas. Plaza Catedral is a beautifully shot and deeply moving story about a grieving mother who is withdrawn from life but makes an unlikely connection with a 13-year-old boy who lives on the streets of her Panama neighborhood. Anyone who's seen Plaza Catedral will know that tragically the film's young star, Fernando da Costa, was shot and killed just months before release. And Abner, that must be particularly devastating given Fernando's obviously natural talent and the film's message about the dangers of growing up on Panama's streets.
Yes, I mean, it was simply horrible. You know, it's just to hear you say that. I'm sorry, just to hear you say that makes me remember what happened. You know, it's a very tragic thing. You know, we could have never imagined that, you know, when I wrote the script and when we made the film, that he would not be here introducing it with us, you know, and presenting it. And of course, he was super talented, not only as an actor. This was the first time he ever acted. He was a football player, he was a dancer, but he was also just a very good, beautiful boy. You know, just really, you know, just someone who became part of the family. And, you know, it's devastating. It's, yeah.
It's such a powerful film, particularly about you know, young children on the street. And I'm just wondering, the film seems so prescient. Was there anything that you went back and changed or re-edited following Fernando's tragic death?
No, that's what's very eerie about it. You know, the film talks about these two characters, the mother with her own problems and the boy who has exactly the same kind of problems that, you know, in the end killed the Fernando. And the film was finished completely, but he hadn't seen it.
Yeah.
And when he died, of course, we decided to dedicate the film to him and to give a message against juvenile violence. And so we added just the text. But what's very strange is that, you know, I don't want to spoil it, but when you see the film, in the end, it almost feels like we knew, because it ends in a way that's not. I even had to I had a discussion with the editor because it ends in a way that it's not logical for the filmmaking language. We end up with a point of view that's not the regular point of view of the film. It's the only moment in the film where the point of view cuts, and we see it all as an audience and not from the point of view of the lead character. So yeah, you know, that's. I guess it's things that happen, but we you know, we weren't ready for that, for reality to take over the film in a way that, you know, that's much bigger than the film.
I mean, it's a deeply moving ending anyway, and with that added knowledge of what actually happened, it becomes, you know, almost unbearably painful, that final scene, particularly because Fernando is such an amazing young actor, just an incredible talent. I mean, how did you find him originally, Abner, and also how did you come to cast Ilse alongside him?
Okay, yeah, it was two different, you know, games completely, because I'll start, you know, Fernando, we made a street casting, you know, open call in the neighborhoods where we were going to shoot, which are, you know, their neighborhood. The movie takes place in a neighborhood that's already been gentrified, and the neighborhood right next door is still very poor, as usually happens when something gets gentrified. So we cast over there, and he came on his own. He didn't ask anyone. He didn't ask his mother or his grandmother, and he just came. And I wasn't there the first time he came. They showed me the videos of 50 kids maybe in the first 2 days, and he was by far the best. And then we shot the film 2 years later. And so I had to, you know, I said, let's check again. You know, he grew, he changed. And we checked again, and then we looked. I wanted to make a workshop with two other boys that were at his same level to find out if, you know, if we can work with him. And just finding two other boys that were at the same level was really hard. We had to look at like for another 150. And then he, you know, obviously he was the best one. That's why we chose him. But by far, but it wasn't just a matter of talent. There was his charisma, his intelligence, his instinct, and I think, and then with Ilse, I knew that the character had to be someone who was a foreigner in Panama, who didn't have family. I wanted to be isolated, and we were in co-production with Mexico, so I was looking at Mexico, and in Mexico, Ilse was my top choice. So when I went to see her, I told my producer, if she says yes, that's it, we stop. And then, she said yes, and I'll leave it to her.
I mean, Ilse, it's a phenomenal story and an incredible role. What gripped you so much that you felt you had to travel to Panama, make this film, and star opposite a non-actor like Fernando?
Well, first of all, the story, the script, I was moved by it, and it seems very familiar for me as a Latin American. I mean, in Mexico, we have also this deep inequality, social inequality, and that moves me at the first time I read the script. And then for me, it was also very interesting to work with non-professional actors, not only Fernando, but all the rest of the cast. I don't know why, because I'm learning, I'm still learning, and I wanted to go deep in this naturality, this different way to play. So, and I didn't know Panama, so I love to go far away from home to work.
I mean, you mentioned the very naturalistic story. It has a very naturalistic real world element to it, Abner, but you have a background in documentary which perhaps helped inform that, but it's also told in the most beautiful cinematic visual way. It's a proper big screen experience. What kind of led you to tell this particular story and in this particular way?
Well, the story came from a lot of different places. I like to think of it as a very personal story, almost, I see it as something intimate in a way, although it's not my own story, but it is based on feelings I've had, moments in my life that I remember as important for me, and on experiences. For example, I used to live in that same apartment where we shot The Outdoors, the one overlooking the plaza. And there was a man who used to take care of cars, but he was older. And we used to have conversations, and I would be in the balcony and he'd be in the street washing some person's car. And that was like the origin. And I said, okay, there's something interesting going on here. It could be the origin for a story. I never knew that it was going to lead to this. And then a friend of mine who also lived in the same neighborhood told me a story of a man that came to his house bleeding and said, help me. And he took him in a taxi and went to the hospital with him. But that's where it ended for it. So all these little things, and then my own personal story. So it was like a vessel to put in stories that I knew that were compelling, and also my own feelings. But and yes, I've done mostly documentaries. It's only my second feature film, and the first one was a comedy. So in a sense, it's almost like a first film, because this is the kind of film. When I went to film school, I was thinking of this kind of film. Then I love all the other films that I made. It's all almost like children, and I love documentary work, but especially the kind of documentary where it's almost in that blurry line in between fiction and nonfiction. And I think what we're looking for in both, or in everything that we do in film, is some kind of truth. So you're looking for that truth in the story, in the actors, even if they're non-actors, or even some people playing themselves. You're looking for that truth, and that's what I was looking for here. But I didn't want it to be a raw experience, like in a documentary style, or in some fiction that is done like that, which I, in some cases I also love. But for this one, I did want it to feel like it's coming from the world of movies. I did want it to have that power that I've had in when I watch films that I love, where there's a shot that, you know, that makes you feel something other than what's in the words or in the story, something, you know, in the camera work. And that's, I had an incredible crew. I mean, I had Lorenzo Hagerman, the DP. He's the one who shot Heli. He shot The Mountain. You know, he's just one of the best in Mexico, and that means one of the best in the world. I had an art director, Coca, from Argentina. She did Motorcycle Diaries and all of Lucrecia, well, the first films from Lucrecia Martel. I really had incredible people. So, you know, it's not only me. I was lucky that we had an all-American, all Latin American all-star team.
And that really comes through in the final film, which is just beautiful to look at. It's just a variety of very intimate shots. And Alicia is in almost every scene. We see almost the whole film, apart from that ending, from her point of view. Ilse, that's quite a lot to carry, isn't it, to be in almost every scene? What was the experience like? Was it an intense experience? Because it's an intense story. You're in every scene, carrying a lot of emotional weight in the character. How was that?
Well, yes, it's always scary when you read close up, Alicia's close up. You're like, my God. Before the film, I was doing media in theater here in Mexico. So I was very into this thing. I mean, losing my child, or, well, Medea is a killer, but Alicia is also dealing with that loneliness and a dark side. So I was dealing with that months before, and I was quite scary because as an actor, you carry your characters and their vibes, no? The soul of the characters. But I was sure I was in good hands, and the crew was really, really very loving. As Latin Americans, I mean, I always felt in home. So it was a big responsibility, but with Fernando there was quite easy. I mean, it was so interesting and so joyful to play with him, because he was very confrontative. Is that the word in English? But very truth and very frontal. And I like those kind of people. So it was obviously hard, and I was very scared. But also I had a feeling that it worked.
You have a charming rapport, a lovely relationship in the film, and with scenes with Fernando. Did you spend a lot of time together before the shooting, during shooting? There are sequences. I'm thinking of the lovely moment where they're dancing to the reggae music, which is a beautiful, touching moment, which seems to sort of become so naturally. Was there lots of time spent together to get that very natural chemistry between you?
Yes, yeah, we spent a lot of time together, and he was so funny, and I was deeply in love with that guy. I mean, you saw him. He was really, really charming, and we talk a lot. We dance a lot. He was a really good dancer, and he teach me a lot of things, a lot of moves, and we became really good friends.
And what is also particularly impressive about the character and also the screenplay, Abner, is that it's very restrained. This woman has been through a lot. She's lost a child, which is just devastating. But there's not any melodrama. It's all held in. She's holding it tight. Ilse, what direction did Abner give you to that regard? And Abner, was that always the vision of the character, that she would be holding herself in?
Yeah, well, I'll answer first. We were a bit worried of going over and then like not showing anything, because that was the plan, you know. But at some point we start saying, maybe we should start showing something now, you know, is now the time. So it would always like more restraint, more and more and more. And I think we took it, I say we because it was a plan, but it was really Ilse. You know, I was just talking. She was actually doing it. And I do trust her instincts very much. And so when she kept it inside, I was always pleasantly surprised. I said, okay, we're holding more. We're holding a bit more. We're holding a bit more. And I would be like, oh, you held. She's like, yeah, wait. And then, and it came.
Yes, we both were quite scary because I had a feeling that I have to hold her almost all the time. And we have to pick the moments where she just can't with anymore. And those moments were hard to pick. I mean, they weren't very clear. I remember one conversation with Abner in Zoom as well. And I said, I think we have to choose the weirdest moments to show the real Alicia. I mean, but all the time, I think she must be like a zombie. And when you have those kind of choices, you knew you can fail. I mean, it's very imminent. You have the fail here. It can be very boring. Maybe you won't transmit anything.
Mhm.
But that vertigo, what's the word in English?
Yeah, vertigo also.
That vertigo, it's something, and it's something very powerful. And when I was playing her, I always felt that vertigo.
Yeah.
And in the first scene, when we go up in that big building, I mean, that was my feeling. That feeling of vertigo all the time, but no showing it. So I don't know if it works. I talk a lot with Abner about it. We were in some points we agree, and in others we didn't know. But when I see the film, I don't know. I feel good because we work together as a director and an actress.
And it makes those moments of release. And I'm not just talking about when she's speaking about her loss, but also the moments where she's doing her martial arts, which are obviously a very physical element of her character. That's a release for her, all the more powerful. Did you have to do any sort of physical training for the role? Because it's very emotional, but it's also some very physical elements in there.
Yeah, I have to practice to learn a little bit of jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And I love those kind of things. I mean, in my life, I never will practice an martial art. It's not my thing, but it was very funny. And I think that's a good thing, a good detail from Alicia. She needs to have this violent contact with somebody.
Yeah, she's definitely got a duality of character that makes the role so vivid and wonderful. And Abner, this is your latest film, but it is a first in a way, as you said at the beginning, because it's a first dramatic film. But you're a man of firsts, because your debut film Chase was the first Panama production for 60 years. Your film Invasion was Panama's first ever Oscar submission. And now, if fingers crossed Plaza Catedral makes the shortlist, it will be the first film from Panama to do so. So that's quite a lot of firsts that you're carrying there. How does it feel to be such a pioneer for filmmaking in Panama?
Well, the weird thing about it is that I just wanted to make films, and it happens to be that I'm from Panama, and that I wanted to make my films there, of course, because it only feels natural to me. That's where I was born and raised, and that's where my family is, and that's So I when I started doing my first one, Chance, it's a comedy. I didn't know that it was going to be the first one in 60 years in theaters. People started telling me that when it was about to hit theaters, and it was like, oh, thank God that I didn't know that before, because that's a lot of weight, and then it's really nice in a way, because there's a lot of challenges to make films in a country where there was no tradition. People looked at me when I said I was a filmmaker as if I was saying I'm an astronaut and there's no space program. Like, okay, how are you going to do that? But so it's been challenging in a sense, but it's also been really good because there's a lot of goodwill towards the films. And Ilse can attest to that. People are excited about you making a film. No one is tired because you close to a road or because you want, ask for a favor. People love the fact that you're making films, and they also, come to see them. And yeah, it's very appreciative. So, it's a balance of a lot of challenges, but also a lot of payback.
Well, let's hope that he gets the payback for this film that it deserves, and it goes on to win the accolades that it deserves. I'd like to thank you both, Abner and Ilse, for taking part in this Screen International for Your Consideration Q&A today. And for more information in the series, you can visit screendaily.com/FYC-screenings. Thank you both.
Thank you so much.